Hi, my name is Cindy, and welcome to Diving Deep with Cindy, where we have achievers who have mastered their craft and in turn can help the next generation master their craft. Sheila Asencios is a political advisor who has worked in 5 statewide Democratic campaigns, including Charlie Crist's gubernatorial race in 2014, Andrew Gillum in 2018, Congressman Darren Soto, Joe Biden's race for presidency, and most recently, a U.S. Senate race in Florida. She has worked in politics for 10 years, both in Florida and nationally. Please welcome my beautiful friend, Sheila Asencios.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really, really appreciate it. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
I'm so happy you're finally here, so we can discuss your story, because it's an amazing story, especially for all the young Hispanic women, someone to look up to, representation, just like, in the Black, I'm Haitian, in the Haitian community, we all need representation to feel like we can do so many other things but what the television is, showing us and what the media is showing us.
Right, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I think that we all have to look around us and find people who look like us in positions not just of power but of empowerment, right? So I appreciate the space and the time to be able to share my story. I hope my story is just mine, but if it and somehow it empowers others to go for their dreams, to take the detours of life by the horns and go whatever direction they want to go, I'm all for it.
What drew you into politics? There's just so many negative things out there about politics.
I came to this country when I was 3 years old. My parents brought me here as an immigrant, right? We were undocumented for like 7 years. And when I was young, I couldn't understand why I felt, right? I perceived that this country wasn't accepting of immigrants, or my parents, I saw them work really hard and do all the right things and constantly fear an immigration status. So I was already kind of woke at that point. I woke up at a young age. I looked around me and I said, what's going on, right? And why is the world the way it is? Fast forward, went to college, became a U.S. citizen. And when I was in school, it was 2008, I remember, I was at the University of Florida, and Barack Obama was running for president. And when I was young, I wanted to be a journalist. I loved communications. I loved all of that, right? So I was like, how? And I observed from afar. I had no idea I would get into this world that I'm currently in. But I looked from afar and I'm like, how does the United States, with its history, just elect a black president? How did that happen? Who are the people in the background that made it happen? Because also as a journalism student, I understood that communications, how things are impacted in media, how things are portrayed, really kind of like convinces people to change sentiment, opinions. So I was very intrigued. But it wasn't because of a detour that I ended up in this space. It was always an interest, and I did believe in government, in our nation's history, and what this country promised us as people, and as promise of inclusion of America. I really did believe it because I lived it.
I did too.
I was an outsider coming in, and then I became a U.S. citizen, and there's promises behind those things. I felt it with my heart because I experienced it. So I was intrigued into government and politics. How I got into the political world was actually a detour, a big blessing, and I'll talk about it a little further.
Career.
Right.
In politics, I know you're with many prominent people, like you said, Charlie Crist, Biden, Joe Biden, our president right now. Have you dealt with imposter syndrome? I feel like a lot of us have dealt with imposter syndrome. Some people may not. Some people, a little more than others. How do you feel like you're dealing with it? Because you're in front of a lot of famous people and you're connecting with a lot of prominent leaders.
I feel like that's very real, and I'm glad that you even bring it up, actually, because I feel like people of color, people that come from other nations that are, here in the States, like sometimes we do feel like, why am I even here? Like, you question everything, right? You always have to overperform. you know,
So you really felt that way. You had to overperform.
I had to overperform. I've overperformed, and I think about everything because I'm a very much a perception person. From a strategic communicator and someone that works like in public relations and communications, you think about being self-aware. When you are self-aware, you know how you come across,
Yes.
you know what you communicate and how people will take it, and it's very powerful to be someone that's really aware of themselves as to how you're perceived, right? And that's in anything. I'm pretty much a very self-aware person. I'm a woman. I'm a minority. I'm a Latina. In order to be in a place where I work with people who are, you know, in power or are doing very incredible things and are really powerful and responsible for a lot that's going on in our world, and advising them, you know, that is something that throughout the last 10 years of my career, I've had to work hard for your credibility, your trust in your relationships, your professionalism, integrity, all of it, and your reputation and your hard work precedes you. I really believe that your reputation and your hard work will always speak for itself, and that's how you should conduct yourself always, right? Because that's it. It's not about a recommendation. It's like, oh, I've seen her work.
Right. I've heard of Sheila.
I know her relationships. I trust her. She's consistent. Like, those things matter, and that's how I try to perform. But yes, imposter syndrome bugs us all every day. And I will be one of the first ones to say it, right? I believe I have to overperform because anytime you're granted an opportunity, you have to embrace it.
Amen.
And if you love what you do, you need to cherish it, right? You need to work really hard to do it. Master your craft. So there's a lot still to be done, I think, in my career.
Always.
But I really am, I'm happy that I even carry that imposter syndrome when I have felt it in me because, you know, it makes me be better.
Do you feel like you have to continue to just be who you know that you are, even though you're still kind of nervous, you still feel like you have a lot to learn, but you're still out here being a, you know, bad A, you know, doing what you got to do, and you've been in 5 campaigns, and there's a reason for that. It's like you said, your name precedes you.
Right. So. Exactly. And again, like in politics, nothing is really about you. It's about everyone involved. Every campaign. I'm not the only campaign worker. There's a whole lot of other people. There's a lot of players. There's a lot of things that affect politics and elections. And it's not all on you. I am hired to assist a lot of high-profile people because of my relationships, because of the people I bring to the table, because of my competence and my ear on the ground for key communities that represent my overall community, the Latino community. So yeah, I don't think you fake it until you make it. I think what we try to fake is that confidence that sometimes we lack in looking back at everything you've harnessed and everything you've fostered and saying, yeah, I'm the person that could actually help you. And with my knowledge the last 10 years, knowing the people that are out there that can be of service to you, actually I would be the only one that could possibly help you the most in this key thing that you need help on. Right?
Because you have experience.
Because you have experience, but you actually have to look back sometimes and question yourself. You're like, really, it's me? Because I'm just Shayla, you know, I'm Peruvian and I grew up in Kissimmee. Like, I'm just a girl. And no, I'm a 36-year-old woman who has worked 10 years and I've, you know, blood, sweat, and tears. A lot more work to do here in Florida, I think. And I have to look back and be confident in myself and say, you know what, you are that woman. You are that girl. So,
and you're still just Shayla, you know, especially
I'm still
your friends and your family.
Exactly.
But we continue to grow, like Michelle Obama said. We're still becoming.
Exactly. Oh, exactly. Amen to that.
I love her, Michelle. Hey, Michelle. So, Sheila, what would you tell our viewers who are watching you who want to know how to get into this position that you are in? You know, because they see a lot of us see what's going on, but we don't know the steps to get there. We'd have to do our research.
I would say get involved in local politics in every Democratic Party if you're in a certain county, and even the statewide one. Attend those meetings. They happen in every single county here in Florida and across the nation, right? There's a big Democratic Party for every state, and under it, the county-wide ones. It depends on what line of work you'd like to do. I majored in sociology when I was in college and mass communication, right? And that was my major, and it brought in so much insight to the things that I work in now. How we reach people, how we analyze them, how we look at different groups of people and see what socioeconomic impact politics and government have had on their lives. And it played out so well for me, but that's what I was always interested in. Not necessarily, I never majored in government and politics. I studied people. Mm-hmm. And what I've done the most, I think, in politics is communications and, of course, the political operative aspect of every campaign, right? So I would tell them to get involved, put your seatbelt on because it's going to be a bumpy ride. Mm-hmm. Learn everything. Right. Learn everything. Don't just focus on one area in campaigns. You usually have your communications, political, you have your advanced team, you have the finance team that fundraises for candidates. Be involved in everything and try to understand how it all comes together to serve its purpose. Because the more you know, the better about the functionality of it all. I mean, I've been a union labor organizer. I've been in airports here in Florida, and I've pushed elected officials with union workers who've made less than minimum wage, right? Wow. To help them get out there and raise
Orlando?
In Orlando, in Miami, and Broward County. Mm-hmm. I've lobbied on a local level. I've learned a lot of different things, and I haven't been afraid to take those on. And the last 10 years, I can honestly say that I know how it all fits together, and I've never really hid to one part of all this and said this is what I specialize in. I know my strong points, but I've learned how it all comes together. So never be afraid of taking on new roles and master your craft, because all of it is the craft. All of it and how it plays together in your relationships is a craft. Be a team player, be humble in the world of humble. Right. In the world of government, politics, and power, there's a lot of egos in the room. So we don't need another one. And the people that make things come alive, the background people, are team players. Amen. The best ones are team players, right? That really want to work.
It all come together.
Exactly. So that's usually what I tell people. I always tell them about the humility and the ego out of it all, and also just take your time to know every aspect of politics, so then later, whenever you want to do huge things, you're so well prepared for it. You've been around that roller coaster already.
So what about before that? Because since you're in politics, people feel like they have to major in political science, but you're saying that you majored in sociology, not political science.
Right. So the story of me is actually, it's not a straight line or straight path. It's not.
Usually not.
So I got my bachelor's degree in sociology. I wanted to be a journalist always, since I was a little girl.
I wanted to be a journalist actually as well.
I wanted to be an investigative reporter and unmask everything, right?
Wow.
But it's really it's communications that I loved. I really loved it. But growing up and being from a Latino family, everybody was just you're gonna be a doctor or a lawyer. And I was like,
that's your family too. Engineer. Can't forget about the engineer.
Exactly. So it's just kind of okay, well, of those two or those three, what would you do, Shay? And it's just I'd be a lawyer. Honestly speaking, I'm always down to defend whomever. Literally, I am an advocate for sure. So I said, well, I'll be a lawyer. And you know what? I'll fit this mold and this puzzle that people want me to fit in, because I was young. My family puts pressure on me. I'm I'm going to do this then. And I took on those expectations as my own expectations on myself. But when you're young, you don't really know yourself. You don't know what you're made of. And if you're not totally certain about what you're going to do the next 10 to 20 years, then you feel a little lost, and honestly, you don't need to feel that way. No one has all the answers at 20.
No,
at 20. All. But yet the pressure's there.
The pressure's 20 years old to have all the answers.
Of course. So I put it upon myself. And not only that, I said, I'm going to choose to be a lawyer because let's look at my past and look at my family. Those are the things I've cared about. It was an immigration attorney who was able to get us to be U.S. citizens later, Amen. And when I was little, it was about me, actually. I was 7 years old, and I remember the attorney sat me down and said, well, you're going to be the reason your parents stay in this country, and you stay in this country, and you get your documentation. I was at 7, okay. And
he was speaking life into you,
literally.
Prophecy.
He said, exactly. And he was we're going to go before a judge, and we did go to court, and that was very impactful for me. We're going to go before a judge, and we're going to, try to make a case that bringing you back to Peru would cause a huge psychological impact on you as a child. And, your brother and sister were born in this country, and that's going to be my argumentation. Your parents are good, you're two good people, you have a good family, you've contributed to this country, and that's how we're going to argue, and we're going to put you on the stand and ask you these key questions. And I was at 7. Fast forward, I'm 20, and my dad's pick one. And I'm okay, we'll do law school. Why? Wow. It's the things you see when you're young and what people are telling you, right?
So he just said pick one. He didn't say what do you
No,
want
it wasn't. It wasn't. It was just like these are things you could do. You're gonna earn a lot of money as a lawyer.
Yeah, they were
Journalists, you're not gonna make anything. Like, what are you talking about? Right. And believe me, as a student journalist, I was a managing editor of our newspaper. I had the first like internships from our college to a key publication in Central Florida. Like, I had a lot of opportunities because I'll tell you one thing. I maybe sometimes in my past I've been unsure of myself, but one thing I do is work hard and create opportunities. And that is something that's been consistent. I'm like, yes, that I have done for myself. That I've been unsure sometimes, that other factors have influenced me, that I had to learn as a woman. I had to learn growing up and gaining the self-confidence and believing in myself. That took a while. But that I would create opportunities, surely. And you could never tell me no when I was young, because I would make it a yes if I really wanted.
Amen.
Yeah.
Hey,
always.
I feel the same.
Yeah, and you have to.
A lot of us don't like no.
We
There's
don't
a better
like
way
no.
to say no. I feel like something.
No, and I was always like, no, you think, but I would never even. I would just make moves. And
not now.
Not now, but it will happen. So then I was like, I'll be a lawyer, and I struggled to take my LSAT, to get a high score, to get into law school. I struggled so hard. Fit myself in a puzzle that was not my puzzle. I was a puzzle piece that didn't fit into that at all.
So you actually went to law school?
I did. I took time. I worked for a law firm for 2 family law attorneys for about 2 years. I prepared for my LSAT as much as I could, trying to get, because my first time that I took it, it was a very low score, and I was like, I'm not going to get into the law schools that I need to get to. I'm going to keep trying. Took it again, and I never went up, and it was heartbreaking. But Shayla found the scholarship, got chosen as a fellow, was able to get into the school that she wanted to get into, FIU College of Law. And I hated the culture, the Socratic method. The creativity, even in my writing, was taken away from me.
So Sheila, we heard a lot about, law school and how you went into it, and, it wasn't what you thought that it was. So what would you say is your biggest career failure, if you have any? Because obviously you didn't continue with law school. So.
Right. I don't think it's a career failure. I think that law school showed me that I am not in this earth to please anyone, right? And that when whatever the universe, God, plants a passion in your heart, it is the call time. It is your alert that you have to go pursue it. Because if you don't, it festers and it leaves you alone. It will not leave you alone. It's always like, oh my, and that's what bothered me while I was in law school. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to acquire a huge debt for something I don't want to do. I didn't have anyone at the time to tell me, well, you know what, maybe if you finished it, it's fine, and you could do a career where you don't have to go to court every day. That could have been helpful maybe in the process for me, but I didn't have that sort of support. And I kept picturing myself, and I'm like, do I want to wake up every day and go to court? My first law school internship was in family law, actually. And I actually started their family law clinic at FIU College of Law, which I was very proud of. I was on the grind, and I was like relentless, right? But I needed to focus more on my schooling, and I didn't want to because I just didn't like it. But
you're still on fire now.
I know, I still am.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I worked for the complex litigation division of the family law court in Miami-Dade County. It's families that are going through domestic violence, divorces, all sorts of things, right? And I remember going into an investigative session where a young boy was beat up by his dad because he beat him up because he was boxing with him because he was high on cocaine. Wow. The child died, but the cops, DCF, the lawyers, everybody was there to figure out, where did this child get lost in the cracks? How did we not see that maybe he would go to school and sometimes he was bruised, or he looked too thin because he wasn't eating? What went wrong with DCF? Where are the lawyers? What about the mom? Did the teachers report what they observed? And all these things happened, but there were still cracks in the system. And I remember being in that meeting, and I wanted to just throw up. I was like, I felt so awful for that child. But I said to myself, do I really want to come home every day and be in the situation where I see these things happening? And I realized that I didn't want to be a lawyer and enforce the status quo. I wanted to change the world in some way. I did not want to just grab the laws that we currently have that I wish we could change and still enforce them for my clients. No, I just didn't want that. I wanted to really get politically involved in some way, and it stayed with me.
So and
that's really what kind of inspired me and made me understand that is not what I wanted to do. And I had someone actually tell me, you're 25, you're a grown woman. If you don't want to do something, you have to get the courage to stand up and say no thanks. And the world and everyone that supported you up until this point, don't worry about them. They're going to love you regardless, and they still do.
Yeah, when we're young, we don't understand that. For some reason.
We don't, and there's a lot of pressure. Right. So I had to do that. I got out, and I didn't want to be an attorney. I didn't want to be a paralegal. I was over it. So I got involved at a local bar association, and I became their marketing manager, and we did a community outreach program where I worked a lot in the community and with attorneys because I understood what they wanted. And, fast forward, I did a lot of great things for that organization, and that brought me into politics because even lawyers want to run for judge one day. And it just got me in the mix of the right people that I got to meet along the way, and I haven't stopped since. 5 gubernatorial campaigns. Five. A political action committee, labor union. I've lobbied in the county, in different counties, just done a lot. And now I'm an advisor, and I think that people just, seek out my help. And that's always where I wanted to be. I wanted to be able to help, but I wanted the respect that comes when someone calls you and says, I need your help for this. It was what I always wanted.
So you wanted to facilitate the change, not just, okay, like you said, here's the laws and this is what we're going to fight for because this is what the law says. But
who made this law, right? Who made this law? Why do public entities and government, why is this so bureaucratic that we couldn't have helped a young boy who we saw the signs? Everyone saw the signs. Right. And that's what I was like, I just can't. Other people have the skin for it and they like it. And I have wonderful attorney friends that are my friends until this day. I met incredible people, but it was a big detour. And I learned then, I'm not here to please nobody but myself.
Amen. Do you feel like you can change the laws? I feel like since you're a consultant and an advisor, you definitely have a power that you can kind of bestow or just like advice or whatever.
Correct.
But like on your own.
I'm more impactful now, I think, because legislators change laws, spearhead laws and their sponsorships. So I'm in a position where public opinion and what people need in communities, in states, on a national government, they need certain things. And I'm there if I'm there to advise legislators. So you love your job, Sheila, I can tell. Sometimes when I see you or I'm calling you, you're like, oh, I'm on a Zoom call, or I'm talking, or I'm working. Like, I need my Wi-Fi open. So I can tell you love your job because, you do it at home. So it sounds like, it's a job that you can't just leave at the job. You have to do it at home. So you have to love your job to do something like that. So what do you feel like is the toughest parts about what you do? When you're so passionately involved in something, it's almost like this love-hate relationship sometimes. Because let me tell you, I have been like, after an election year, you're like, why do I do this to myself? Why? One of the toughest things is being in Florida too. Florida, I work with Democrats, right? I'm never going to change my party. There are people like me on the other side for Republicans. One of the toughest things is knowing that you try to impact as much as you can, but the work of Democrats in Florida is one that involves a whole lot of people. It's not just me here, right? And to get us to be in a point where we can win statewide campaigns and hold Democratic power in Florida, it's going to take a long time and a big collaborative effort. And there's a lot of dysfunction sometimes, not just with my party, but also in the opposition. So that's what frustrates me, that I wish I could just, do more, but a lot of things are also beyond my control, but I do what I can and I serve my purpose. And I definitely enjoy what I do. It takes me away and I share my time from my family sometimes, from my own personal time too. But I don't mind it because I love what I do.
So you would say what motivates you to keep going is just the change that you can help facilitate.
Correct.
Pretty much. This is very important. Why should people vote? Because I know people who have said, they don't want to vote. They feel like their vote doesn't matter. Because, of course, the party that you choose, if they don't win, you kind of feel like there's something rigged, something happened. Especially when there's a lot of people, walking in the streets and supporting their elected official. What can you tell to our listeners that will encourage them to vote? Because of course, we all know back in the day, women, we didn't have the right to vote. Even African Americans, didn't have that right to vote as well. And now that we do, a lot of people may take that for granted. They may feel like, it doesn't matter, my voice doesn't matter. So what would you tell them?
It surely does. There's so much going on right now. in the work that I do, in national work, in the work of Republicans on the other side, because your vote matters, right? There's a lot going on just to convince you to either sit down and not go out there and not vote, or to do it, right?
That's so true.
There's a lot of activity, and you have to sit and wonder why. Why? Because it does matter. And because, like you said, if we look into our nation's history and into the world's history, really, but into our nation's history, you see so many disenfranchised groups that have fought for social change and achieved it. And it's such a disservice to just say it doesn't matter. It surely does. And in fact, the fact that, and if we're not turning out to vote and we don't care, or we don't think it's impactful, there's a lot of activity that's being done to either keep it that way or change it.
Right.
I do feel that in the here and now, we're becoming very factionalized, and it's something that both sides, we have to do something about, right? Because people need to appreciate and care about the opportunity to vote. It's just, it hurts to know that, and that most people are just believing it's not even impactful, right? I do wish that the direction of our nature can change and the polarization can end, but that it does, it's just such a disservice for people who have lost their lives in the fight for change.
It definitely hurts me too, because I feel like when I was younger, when you're younger, you believe a lot of things. And
right.
Sometimes they'll show you that, your vote doesn't matter. But I personally feel like our vote does matter. I feel like we wouldn't be fighting so hard to try to see if these ballots are rigged. Because didn't it just happen
for recounts during Gilliam's campaign? There was a whole recount in Florida in the gubernatorial race. Do you think why would that even happen? Exactly. Why? Because this is real. This is important. This is dangerous. If
I
we
feel
don't
like there's
count.
many eyes too.
There are people get mailers all the time. We get digital ads all the time that say vote for somebody. You get calls. People knock on your door. Do you think this is just a thing?
They're paying advertising for this. Okay.
Oh, there's a lot of money in advertising. So it's just this is to convince you that, whether you even stay at home and decide not to do it or to vote, all of that is very important. And again, it's a disservice to so many people who have risked so much for social change.
Amen. So Shayla, I know it's you are a political figure, and you work for the Democratic Party. But of course, even if you're a Democratic or you're a Republican, it's just so important to vote, because I agree your vote matters. Democratic may not like what Republicans do, vice versa. But at the end of the day, in so many years, we have seen Democratic, Republican. It's not just one, political party that continues to be here. Enough about politics. So what about family? How is family life? Are you single? Do you have children? I'm sure our listeners want to know.
I don't have children. I am single. I hope maybe I'll have a child one day or two, but I think that I'm not too crazy about that necessarily. I think I would be, happy with a life partner, and with if once I have that life partner, and that's someone that can actually also feel and support the work that I do, and that also has something that they're also passionate about, because I am a woman of passion. It would be great, because, if we both decide to have a child, then I'll have one. I've never been a girl who's like, I want to grow up and just have a family and have kids. That's never been my, I can't share that sentiment. Wouldn't mind raising a child. My mom raised me with so much love. My dad, my parents, my family. I always feel like I need to be close to them because they're great and they're always there for me and there to support me. Sometimes this work takes me from being able to spend maybe even more time, but I do the best I can and they're near. But I hope that I do. I think I would love to leave this earth with a life partner.
Amen. And of course, I know Sheila. Sheila is my best friend, Melissa's sister. So I know about Sheila's background, her family. They're just so loving. I've learned so much, from your sister, Melissa, just about affection, because, I feel like in your community, Hispanic community, you guys have a lot of affection and love. I'm not saying it's everyone, because everyone is not the same, but I see it a lot in the Hispanic community. So you're just rich auntie for now.
Oh, the wine, cool, why not? Although I can't have too much wine sometimes because it's
the wine
the cool wine on. Yeah, there's this thing. There's a huge meme about cool wine ons. But no, I mean, I love my nephews. Melissa is my sister and my best friend.
Mine too.
I know. So we'll fight for her.
We are.
Love her. I love her. She's someone that has kept me grounded, and she's so full of love and so full of so many tools, life tools that sometimes I feel like I don't have, but I think God put her on this earth to just guide me too. And my nephews, if it weren't for her, my brother and I wouldn't have these cute nephews that we love. So cute. They're amazing. And nothing, I'm happy for her. I'm so proud of her, and she's really my person. I'm glad you brought her up, because in the story of my life, I know my sister has always just been my person.
It's definitely important to have, a family member there for you. Like you have a lot of them. Family. Yeah,
but
all
there's
definitely.
a special connection with your sis. It's like it's different. I don't know what it is, but it's the best connection.
Wouldn't say everybody, but if you do have it, that's amazing. And if you don't, facilitate that, foster that, and because it's very important. Blood family is very important. So Shayla, what is next for you? Because I feel like you've done so much.
Right.
And there's just so much more for you to do, especially in the political realm. I'm so proud to know you. Like, you are awesome. You're my best friend's sister. And just me getting to know you more and more, I just see, your family is just amazing. So what do you feel like is next for you? Because your name has already preceded you. So I know you're working on a, campaign now. Do you feel like you're in your dream? A lot of us are working, 40 hours, doing extra, but it may not be our dream. It may be close to our dream.
It's really weird with me. I think I should be even more strategic about my next steps, and more deliberate and intentional. What I do is is what I pray to God. He puts me He puts me where I'm needed. I always pray to Him. I'm Catholic. I'm very, yes. God is in the center of my life, right? I always pray, and I'm like, make me be of service in anything that I do, right? Maybe open a door, be there for people, use me as an instrument of your word, that's right? So I don't know what comes next, but I have entertained maybe running for office one day, or
Woo!
I know, I've thought about it, right? Or just working more on a national level, or maybe in a presidential administration. I've thought of those things. But it depends on where life also takes me, and where my personal life also takes me, what I want to do. It's not usually all work. I am, in my late 30s, and there are just things that I need to do for myself personally that I have to kind of make everything sort of work.
I feel like many other people can see in a person, like, what's amazing about them. Just like with Barack Obama, when he was Senate, a lot of people told him he should run for president.
Right.
For you, they're telling you should run, what is it, for Senate, you said?
I've been approached to run for different offices. Different offices? Yeah, I've been approached to run. They say, in theory, that the average woman will be asked to run for office about 7 times before they say yes.
You should run for office.
Okay.
Is that the 6th one?
I know. I definitely sometimes look around me and I'm like, well, I could do this work, and I could do it. But I definitely want to see before I do that, if I settle down on the family note or a personal note in some way. That's important. That is very important. Okay. Because when you decide to do that, it is everything that you do. And you got to find the people around you that will appreciate it, that won't fight for that time, that will empower you. It's a whole setup. Literally, it's a whole setup on a personal level, right? So it may be in the future. And if not, continuing to do this work in Florida and seeing that Florida changes, that we gain more Democratic seats in the Florida Senate, right? And then also the governors, our governor, changing Florida blue. That is still like a long-term project that involves me and a lot of other people. But it's definitely something I want to continue to be a part of and fight for.
So why should our future generation never give up? I work in the mental health field, so I've seen many people who are ready to give up, having suicidal thoughts.
Right.
Or may feel like this career is not for them, and it may not be. And they could do they can switch and just do something that they love. So can you tell our viewers, like, why they should not give up? Either if you want to be in politics, if you want to be in the medical arena, wherever you want to be. I feel like you shouldn't be where you don't want to be.
Of course.
There's just more excitement.
I mean, some people don't have that fire, and maybe it's not a bad thing either, right? But if you have a fire in your heart, if there's something you want to do,
gotta use it.
You have to. And I'm telling you as a disclaimer, it will bother you forever. It will fester. So what are you going to do? And I believe that the universe or God gives it to you for some reason. So how you're not going to pursue it? You want to stop wasting time? Go right after it. That's all I tell you. I wasted a lot of time and a lot of tears in a world that I didn't want to be in, right? And I just didn't have the courage to be more of a woman and say, I don't want to do this, until I had to and until I did. And I thank God for that. I've thought about law school sometimes and I'm like, maybe I should have just done it. Because of course it's a beautiful education. It's a really great one. But it's not for what I wanted. I knew I was going to do it. Right. I knew I was going to do it and I wasn't going to even use it. So why? Wow. So that's what you have to think about. It does. But you got to pursue and you have to have the courage to pursue that fire. Right? And again, it could be a fire about just about anything. It doesn't have to be career. It could be a fire for your family, for something you want to do. It doesn't matter what it is, but if it's there for a reason and is no coincidence. It is something so present that you can't see, but you can totally feel. So what are you going to do? Right? And my disclaimer in life is you better go after it. I think we need to encourage our children to do the same, and we need to give them the tools to feel that confidence to pursue them.
And not say what other people...
No, parents say things to protect. Yeah, parents say things with the best of intentions, and sometimes they're not. It doesn't come from a bad place, but we gotta empower our future to not give up and to go after things.
We have to cultivate our youth, like cultivate what they like, because whatever they like, they're just gonna soar in it.
Exactly.
And I feel like you said, God. Some people might say the universe. I know God just opens these doors for you. Like, correct. If you're doing what your soul wants, the doors open easily, a little more easily for you. That's what I believe. And if they don't, you got to continue to fight, knock them doors down.
You get to go to sleep at night with yourself. Whatever you didn't do or what you did.
Yeah, you'll be happy about it.
You'll be happy if you did. And you'll go to sleep at night. I mean, there's so many people who do things because they have to do them because they need to make a living and put bread up, like food on the table. Yeah.
Especially at a time like this.
Right. If we're in a position of privilege to be able to pursue things because we like them or not, if we have the tools, why would we throw them away? If there's people right now that are just sacrificing just to survive, they don't have the leisure of saying, I want to do this something because I like it. They're just trying to survive. So we're in a place of privilege. If you have that privilege to be able to pursue something, don't second guess yourself. Forget that imposter syndrome. Go after what you want.
Yes. I feel like in the United States, there's a lot of negative things, just like everywhere else that's happening just in the world. But I do feel like we're still in a great country.
We are.
Opportunity.
There's so many people risking their lives every day just to make it here, just to try, So, if there's a dream inside of you, you have to pursue it. And that's my message.
I love it.
Thank you. Thank you, Sendy. You're incredible. I really appreciate this conversation.
You're so welcome. I'm so happy that you took my invitation to come so we can tell the youth about, political consultant and to vote. Please vote because your vote does matter. Don't believe that it doesn't. A lot of people say whatever you believe, might be your reality. So, don't believe that it doesn't matter because it does. So, Sheila, where can everyone find you?
Well, I'm in social media. You can find me on my Twitter, It's my first letter of my first name and then my last name, Sheila Sencios. I'm also on Facebook, and I try to do a lot of the political things. I try to amplify them there. And for anybody that's actually interested in this field and, you align with the values of the Democratic Party like I do in the place that I work, I hope that you will reach out because I definitely am one to mentor others. I have a line of very young people in politics that, I try to empower and I try to open doors for them. And I love I love being able to mentor others. And I have mentees out there who have approached me. And with that audacity and assertiveness, hey, you, Shay, I want you to help me. And I'm I'm all yours. I love that. That's good motivation and assertiveness. And we have to be assertive about what we want. So if you're interested, call me. I would love to talk and see how I can be helpful.
So can we leave your email below?
Of course. Definitely.
Do you really want us to leave your number below?
No, let's just leave the email.
You want them to call?
I know.
Call me.
Just call me, no.
Call her on IG, get out of here, call her on IG. Thank you so much, Sheila, for coming. Until next time, I would love to have you back again, in the future when you run for it.
Definitely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Sheila.